Hello friends, I'm Swapna Shetty. In this video, we are going to learn about polymorphism. We all know that polymorphism came from the two Greek words like poly meaning many and morphos meaning forms. So the ability to exist in different forms is called polymorphism. In Java, a variable, an object, or a method can exist in different forms. So let's see what is polymorphism with variables. So when we use variables, the data type of the result is decided by the compiler. For example, in the statement system.out.println a plus b, Java compiler decides the data type of the result of the expression a plus b depending on the data types of a and b. If a and b are int type, then a plus b will also be taken as int type. If a and b are float type, then a plus b will be taken as float type. If a is int and b is float, then the compiler converts a also into float and then sum is formed. So the result a plus b is exhibiting polymorphic nature. So it may exist as an int or as a float or some other data type depending on the context. So this is called coercion. That is automatic conversion between different data types done by the compiler. So let's take another example. If you look at here, float a equals to 15.5f and int x equals to int a. So in the second line, the actual data type of the variable is changed by using the cast operator. Even if a is float type, it is converted into int type. If a is taken as it is, it becomes float type. And because we converted, it can take the form of an int. That means a exists in two different forms. And this also comes under polymorphism. That is nothing but conversion. That is an explicit change in the data type specified by the cast operator. Next is polymorphism using methods. If the same method performs different tasks, then that method is said to exhibit polymorphism. We basically have two types of polymorphism: static or compile time polymorphism and dynamic or runtime polymorphism. The polymorphism exhibited at compile time is known as static polymorphism. That means when a method is called, the method call is bound to the method body at the time of compiling the program statically. Here Java compiler will actually look at which method to be bound. So under this we have a concept called method overloading. So writing two or more methods with same name but with different method signatures is called method overloading. And if I say different signatures, that means what is the difference? That is based on the three parameters like number of parameters. That is, if I am writing, let's say, if I am writing an add method, something like void add, and if I am writing int a comma int b, this is one method. And if I am saying it might change depending on the number of parameters. So I can write similar method with three parameters. That is int a comma int b comma int c. And the second difference is we can change the data types of the parameters. That is, if I'm writing int a, int b, I can write something like void add double a comma double b. And the third one is this order of parameters. For example, if I'm writing int a float b, I can simply write another method saying void add float a comma int b. So this is how we write method overloading methods. For example, let's see an example of it. So let me create a project called polymorphism. Samples. Create a class with the name poly and within a package com.educators with the main method in it. So for overloading, I'll simply write a class sample with two methods in it, like void add int a comma int b, in which I would just print the sum of two numbers is a plus b. Similarly, I write one more add method with three parameters. But before I write a parameter, we can simply see the error here that the compiler is finding out that there is a duplicate method add int comma int. So we can't write two similar methods with same name and same signature in a class. So if we change this, I just add one more parameter. So then the error got disappeared, and here I would change sum of three numbers as a plus b plus c. Now how do we call these methods? How do we use this class is simply create an object to the sample, sample as equals to new sample, and s dot add of, I can say simply say 10 and 20 with two parameters, and s dot add of three parameters. So first method call would bound to the method with two parameters, and second method, which has got three arguments, will bound to the method with three parameters. So let's execute and see. So you can find sum of two numbers is 30 and sum of three numbers is 60. So this is the concept of method overloading. So in method overloading, the method call is bound by the compiler. So the compiler itself decides if there is any change in the method signature at static time. And next is method overriding, that is dynamic polymorphism. So polymorphism exhibited at runtime is known as dynamic polymorphism. Under this we have got method overriding. It's nothing but writing two or more methods in super and subclasses such that the methods have the same name and same signature. So let's see an example of it, of writing same methods with same signature. So for that, I create one more class like poly override with main method in com.educators, and let's finish. So here I need two classes. One is class 1 with some method in it. Let me say I'm taking a method called calculate, which is calculating the square value of x. So let me pass x as an argument to this, double x. So which will just print the square value. Next I write another class, say class 2 extends 1, in which I write the same method void calculate with the same signature, but this method would calculate the square root instead of square value. It is math dot sqrt, square root of x. Now, how do we call the calculate method? So first, let me create an object to the subclass 2t equals to new 2, and if I say t dot calculate of 25 and execute this method, we would get an answer as square root, that is subclass calculate method got executed. So whenever a superclass method is overridden by the subclass method, JVM calls only the subclass method and never the superclass method. So we can say that the subclass method is replacing the superclass method. So this is called overriding. So we have other key points in method overriding, like when we are overriding, we can't override private, static and final methods. And access specifier cannot be more restrictive. For example, let's say this point in this example. Suppose superclass is having the access specifier as protected. So the same method in subclass cannot be more restrictive. Cannot be more restrictive. That is, if I say protected, I can make it as public, but I cannot make it something like private. So this is, anyways, we cannot reduce the visibility of the inherited method. Suppose if I am saying public here, and here if I say instead of private, if I say protected, I can't do this because I can't reduce the visibility of the inherited method, that is calculate method. That's the point here. Access modifier cannot be more restrictive. And binding of overridden methods happen at runtime, which is nothing but which is done by JVM and is known as dynamic binding. And next we'll see the differences between overloading and overriding. So writing two or more methods with same name but different signatures is called overloading. But writing two or more methods with same name and same signatures is nothing but overriding. And return types in overloading can be same or different, but when we are overriding, the return type should be same. And overloading, the compiler will decide which method is called, whereas in method overriding, JVM decides. And overloading is done especially when programmer wants to extend the already available feature. For example, we have written an add method which adds two numbers. If I want to add three numbers, I'm simply writing another method. That's I'm extending the already available feature. Whereas in overriding, it is done when programmer wants to provide a different implementation for the same feature. That is, for same calculate method, in superclass we are calculating the square value, and in subclass we have calculated the square root value. It's completely a different implementation. And method overloading is code refinement. Same method is refined to perform a different task. Whereas method overriding is code replacement. That is, the subclass method overrides or replaces the superclass method. And when static methods are overridden, JVM decides which method is to be executed depending on reference time. So let's see this with an example. Static methods. So let me say I'm not using any modifiers here. So here I would simply say static. and overridden method is also static. So when a method is called, let's see here, I would use something like one O equals to new, and then I would say simply like O dot calculate of 25. So if I say 1O equals to new 2, what does this mean is a superclass reference referring to subclass object. This is O is a superclass reference and this is referring to the new 2, that is subclass object. And when we call calculate method using the superclass reference, let's see which method will get executed. We got square value, that is the superclass calculate method got executed. So the point here is when static methods are overridden, JVM decides which method is to be executed depending on the reference type. Here we used one reference type, that is superclass. So that is the reason we got square value displayed in the console. And next is private and final methods are not available in subclasses. So obviously they cannot be overridden. So basically final is used in two ways. One is to before a variable and one is before a class. When we declare final before a variable, that means we are making that variable as a constant. Something like final double pi equals to 3.1414159. And final before a class name would prevent the inheritance. That means we cannot create subclasses to a class which is declared as final. So that's all with the session. Thank you.